All right, welcome to the Dealan-de podcast. I'm here with Isis Leeor, and she's coming to us from Spain. Is that right? Granada?
Yes.
Nice.
Muy
and
bien.
and you're founder and coach at Feral Female, and which helps coach women to kind of be their greatest self, kind of connect with mind, body, spirit. I kind of looked at. Does that sound about right, or maybe you want to tell me a bit more?
I mean, that works. I also work with men and I work with couples. But yes, it's about helping people become who they truly are, claim their passion, purpose, pleasure, and power.
Well, yeah, definitely. I've seen a lot of your stuff, read your stuff, and it looks like it's geared to the feminine, to the female, but like I certainly am like, oh, I relate when I read your stuff.
Good. I mean, I end up working with a fair amount of men, but usually they come in through the women. So gone on.
Yeah.
Calling myself feral female. So
Nice. So I was gonna open with a question, which was my thought was like, so many people, myself included at times, you feel like I've done so much, I'm doing so much in my life, I'm really making things happen, maybe in a certain aspect of my life, maybe career, maybe as a parent, or maybe as a partner. But I hear this a lot. Like it's almost like I feel like maybe I'm still alone, or I feel like I'm, that I'm that there's a part that's like, wow, I'm not getting a certain thing back, maybe in relationship, either with self or with other people, that like I'm putting so much out there in life. Like I feel like I'm activating, I'm trying really hard, but the results coming back are like, it's either like not, I don't like it, or it's like not what I want. And I'm finding either maybe people kind of give up and go, oh well, or they just go, or they just kind of live in that kind of loneliness or sadness or depression, but just go, you know what, I still got other parts of my life going on. I'll settle. What are you seeing anything like that, or what do you think about that?
I think that's a common experience people have. And I think it's also a common experience men have of being taught that their value is what they do and what they give other people. I mean, we tend to think of that with women, that they're taught their value is in nurturing and being there for other people, but I've seen it equally in men with a different flavor. And so what happens is we're constantly trying to earn love, but with the version of ourselves we think has worth. And that in and of itself is incredibly lonely, because we're only showing people the parts we think are going to be approved of, and then they become sort of caricatures. And so even if people do love those things and approve of those things, it's like they're approving of a mask. So we've set ourselves up for loneliness. And one of the reasons I do what I do is to help people see the value of who they are in every aspect of who they are, that their grief is a way of connecting and loving and being loved, that their sensuality and sexuality is just as precious and as wholesome as the other parts of themselves, that it's not dirty, that all of these things make us integrated, lovable human beings. And when we only take one small part of ourselves, bastardize it to try and get the most approval as possible, and then put that out there, of course, we're going to feel unfulfilled and alone. And then what do? We push with that part harder, thinking maybe I'm not doing it good enough. Maybe if I perfect it this way, maybe if I do more of it, I'm going to get what I want. And I grew up in New Jersey, about a half hour from Manhattan, very fast paced. And I grew up with a mom who had narcissistic personality disorder. And so it was all about how I appeared, what I could do for somebody. That was my value. And then I'm growing up in a culture that everything is very like hyper masculine, like distorted hyper masculine of like, what are you doing? Where are you going? What do you want? Like, what are your grades? Like, what's your job? Like, go, 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 go. 1, 2, 3. Like elevator speech about who you are now. And I've never felt so alone in my life. And it took me to this place of crisis of like, I don't exist.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a feeling of interconnectedness and worth, and all I see is like just an empty void that I'm falling through. And I think a lot of people live in that space and think that's normal. And then we're marketed like, okay, if you get a better job or you make more money or you look this way or look that way, or if you somehow make yourself 15 years younger, or you get a bigger penis, or, like you buy this car, or you please this person in this way, like that's going to be the thing where finally you feel like you belong. And really, it's not that at all. It's an unwrapping. It's a coming home to like, what do I even really want? What am I holding back? Learning that these things we're so scared of, we think they're going to make us ugly or unlovable, are the things that people really long to see in us.
I think like why we stay in those spaces is that there's a level of stability and safety in it that they're attracted to. Can you hear me? Sorry.
No, how so? What do you mean?
So like, oh, I'm going to stay in this job because, well, it pays my bills, or, I'm going to talk to my friends this way or my spouse this way because they'll accept me and they'll be nice to me and we'll get along, quote unquote, or, I'll treat my kids a certain way and we'll get along. But if I start acting my truth, that may all blow up and then where am I,
Right. There's a lot of fear. If I actually show people who I am, I'm going to be rejected. And yet when we reject ourselves by pretending, we're never going to get the love we want. So it's a catch-22, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the cost of that stability, or that's what seems stable, is ourselves, so to speak.
Right. And I don't know that it's really stability. It's more predictability. If I behave this way, they're most likely going to pretend back. But having grown up with somebody with narcissistic personality disorder, what happens to someone who's been wounded in that way is they become only mask. All they're doing is pretending. And being around someone like that is so profoundly lonely.
Yeah.
So when we do that, thinking that this is helping other people or this is serving us at our job, really what we're doing is just agreeing with everyone, we're all going to suffer in this way. Nobody's getting what they want.
And what I think what pulls us is there's something in us that's yearning, obviously, that we like there's something that goes, come on, like this, there's something more, And
I mean, I remember like being a little kid, and you see little kids and they just want to connect and they want to play, and there's not this sense of like boundary of like, I'm allowed to do this and I'm not allowed to do that, and I can't go up to the stranger. Like there is this innate sense of interconnectedness. And I remember being on the line for ballet with a little tutu. We're going on stage, and my dad saw me in the wing, and I just reached out and I touched the little girl in front of me. Why? Because I just wanted to feel her there. And I felt interconnected and I felt like entitled, hi. And we still have this place in us that feels that kind of animal instinctual sense of belonging. That's like, this is messed up. And, I was born for more than this. And like this real reason we're here. This is one thing that I do when I work with people the first time. I'm like, why are you here? I had somebody ask me that when I was 19. I was like, oh, I'm here because I'm a teacher and a healer. I'm like, why are you here? He's like, I'm here to work with people like you. And we forget why we're here. Like, we're here to play. We're here to learn how to love and be loved. We're here to be creative. Like, nobody's here to be a lawyer. You know what I mean? Like, you may do that while you're doing this other stuff, but it's an extension of your play. It's an extension of your purpose. And when you come from that place, then you can do all this stuff and it's not so like dire if you mess up, because it's just play. But when we forget our excitement, our enthusiasm, the thing that we're really doing, and we just get so focused on trying to perfect the thing out here, we're dying inside.
Yeah.
So all of this, like the work that I do, it's all play. It's an extension of why I'm here. It's an unwrapping. It's not a perfecting of the mask. It's like an unwrapping a gift. And sometimes you're peeling the paper, and sometimes you're in the tissue paper, and sometimes you're in the doll that it's the next doll and the doll after that, you know. But it's exciting, right? Because you're getting back to what you always wanted. And it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to change your job, or, you know, you're going to now be an asshole to your kids because you're repressed anger, right? It's just, instead of doing the outside in, you're going from inside out. And all of this exhausting perfecting of like who you're supposed to be goes away. And then suddenly you're like, I get to be a lawyer today. Or I'm gonna deliver pizzas and it's play, and you know, and like it gets really, what I wanted to do is just connect with people, and I get to do that. It shifts the lens of everything, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people are afraid to do this type of play with me because they think their whole world is going to fall apart, and they're just going to be on the couch in a little ball sucking their thumb, you know, talking about their mother. But no, that's not what happens at all. We come back to that little kid who's like, here's why I'm here. Here's what I want to do. Here's what I want. Here's what I want to create. That's why I'm a coach and not a therapist. It's like, here's where we're going. We're connecting from that place to your adult, and we're making that life with that joy, with that enthusiasm.
And it's like, sort of like what I get is like you're that inner yearning is to be that child again, to be that free, playful, messy, crazy spirit, wild spirit. But kind of in between there and there is this place that goes, oh, this almost like a dark alley. Like, I don't want to go through that dark. That's too dark. What I'm hearing you say is like, yeah, you go through that scary space, but on the other side is where you want to be. But it takes a little bit of crossing that bridge or going through that tunnel, or I don't know. Is that sound? Or maybe you don't even need to.
And what I tell the people I work with is like, okay, we're going to go into this dark alley, but I'm going to bring a flashlight and we're going to hold hands. Right? Like you're not going alone. And I know that dark alley really well. And if you look up, there's stars.
Yeah, there's beauty in that space. There's not the dark and the light, the evil and the good. It's all the juicy now.
Yeah, there's incredible beauty in that space.
Yeah. And often I think we're looking towards like, oh, the destination is like, I'm Buddha on the mountain. You know, I'm like, I'm just balanced. And, you know, I'm in nirvana. But what I see in your work is like, well, it's like a juicy aliveness. It's like I'm you know, I'm not just Buddha on the mountain. I'm, you know, eating that cake and dancing that dance and playing. And if I need to cry. If I need to get angry, I let that, you know, like, is almost like a relationship with our emotions and our full expression, so to speak. And I think also there's the fear is like, do I get lost in those emotions, or do I lose myself a bit? At least that's what I'm thinking when I, you know, where do I, what do you think about that?
I mean, is it possible to get lost in your emotions? I think that's one reason why I'm a space holder, is teaching you how to navigate that, teaching you how to relate to your emotions, teaching you how to be in the bigness of them in safer ways. Like, for example, with anger. And I see a lot of men who are scared of their anger. They're afraid they might be dangerous. And so they suppress it, or it comes out in weird ways, you know, like it come out in a moment of violence, and then it validates like, oh, I am scary, right? I am dangerous. But there are other ways to play with that where you're not exploding, or kind of losing that witness that's like, whoop, don't put your hand through that wall, like you have other options. And it takes training and it takes practice. And it's helpful to have someone who's like, oh yeah, I know you think you're going to kill someone right now, but I'm looking at what's happening in your body and your energy, and you're not. Bend your knees, take a breath. Now we're going to take it out on the bed in this posture. Like, it's just a skill set. And like, you think fighters, they have the capacity to be very dangerous, but they're also infinitely more safe than a scared kid with a gun because they know how to work with their body. They know where the limits are.
Yeah. It's not denying the emotions, not suppressing them, pushing them away or being their bad, but being like, how do we invite them in?
How to work with them, how to play with them so that they don't take you, into the abyss, that their energy and aliveness, that you know how to move and harness and enjoy. I mean, I used to be terrified of anger. Terrified of anger. I remember the first time I heard a woman at a workshop, I was a teenager, like yelling about how she was raped. Like I literally turned to the person next to me and I was like, I'm in hell. Like, this is what hell sounds like. I was so scared. And now when I get angry, like there's pleasure in it. Like I enjoy the bigness. I enjoy being loud. Like I know where that edge is, where I'm still safe and I'm choosing my language, even if I am a big energy. And it feels joyful to be like that juicy and alive. I've been known to laugh when I'm yelling because it feels good. But that's a skill set. I didn't start that way.
So it's almost like you're ride the wave of that emotion, like instead of letting that wave just, oh no, here comes the wave. Like I gotta, go to the bottom, avoid it, but like stop avoiding it. Oh, face it, start, and then now you're riding it. Like now you're like moving with it, so to speak, as opposed to letting it own you or being afraid of it.
Yeah, and just like any skill set, that takes practice. I mean, you don't go to the gym and lift 200 pounds. You start with 5 pounds. Right? And you have someone who teaches you how to lift the weight safely so you don't pull a muscle. That's my job. So it's all very doable. And I would say to someone, oh, just don't be scared, because that certainly didn't work with me. Like, of course, you're fucking terrified. Excuse my language. You're terrified. Okay. And you have a right to be terrified. And the ways that you've seen people be with their emotions maybe felt unsafe to you. And you don't want to be like that. Or you've had an experience where your emotion took over and you did something that you didn't like, or you were depressed, or, you have every right to be scared. And it's because no one taught you how to do it. So we play there with 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 15 pounds, and you start to build up the confidence, like, oh, okay. I didn't choke that person, or, I didn't get taken out for 3 days, and like, I actually feel better. And I did something productive. Maybe I can trust myself with more weight.
So I'm hearing too, is like almost like boundaries, like say, I'm going to engage it, but with a level of boundary to say, okay, I'm going to slowly work that edge with that emotion or that thing that's, I'm trying to face.
Yeah. And I think you're also trying to like put it here. Like when I'm working with people with emotion, I'm watching what's happening in their body. I'm watching if they're checking out, if they're disassociating. I'm watching if they're breathing, right? I'm watching where they're shutting off. Like it's not just a one size fits all thing. Okay, but what I would say is one way not to get knocked down by the wave is get in your body. Some of the first things we do to try to cut things off that actually make it less safe is we stop breathing and we tense. And that's usually what leads to us checking out and doing something destructive. Right? So when you feel the anger, you feel the grief, you feel the fear, bend your knees, maybe shake a little bit, move into your legs, walk, like get down, go down, because the impulse is to go up. You think about getting really angry, the words hothead, it's because it's all rushing up to your head. And people who are scary are usually up here, not down in their legs, in their belly, like in their butt, like rounded. So with all of these feelings, if you don't want to get bowled over, get down, breathe, watch the impulse of your body, and maybe do the opposite.
And what if the other side is, that you're someone that just like, oh, emotional big, you run. Like, I'm just out of here. I got to get out of here. I got to run away. Would that be a similar process? How would you, if there's a major conflict comes up and one person's kind of like, oh, I'm so, and the other one's like, I'm just going to run.
Yeah. I mean, most people feel safer when they feel connected to their legs and they can feel their feet when they're breathing, because they're more resourced, right? They're not fleeing, they're actually there and they have some choices. And if there's a lot of fear that comes up with conflict and a lack of safety, like that seems like a playground to kind of work with, right? Because the body is going into like, uh-oh, something bad has happened, and this is what I do when this bad thing has happened, and that can be unraveled.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously there's real fear of, like, you are in danger. That's understandable, and maybe you do need to flee. But when it's a fear that's not like you're actually not in physical danger, that you're just feeling those emotions, then that would be a place to really work that.
Right. It's like being scared of a shadow.
Yeah.
Something that's happened before, and you see like a kind of the edges of it, and your body goes into uh-oh.
Triggered. Yeah.
Yeah. Good trauma response.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, like, a lot of the world we live in feels, maybe it's always been this way, but it feels like it's emotionally charged, our more than a very emotionally charged world. Like, there's a lot of emotions around, economic, financial war, like COVID, all these things where the world is emotional. And I think we often want to fight in the world or run away from the world, or, I could see this applying in that relationship. One thing I see too in relationship too is projecting, that when we're not kind of taking responsibility for our authentic emotions, we project a lot. How does that show up in your work?
Projection. I mean, first I want to just ground out some of the things we're talking about, because I agree. Most of us are traumatized by what happened with COVID, being isolated, being scared that we could die, that somebody we loved could die, vaccine versus not vaccine, and the othering that happens with that. And we started out by talking about the mask and how we kind of stay out here instead of going in. And the first thing I would invite people to do is just take a moment to feel into your body and notice if you're living in a state of fear. Like, what actually happened during this time, and where are you? Like, how do you feel right now? Instead of like just being out here trying to fix it. Right? Like, I'm going to control my world by doing this, and I'm going to show my world, I'm going to make more money, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to show up with my friends this way. Like just this place of like, whoa, like, how am I doing? Like, how am I feeling in my body? Are my shoulders up here? Is my stomach tight? Like, do I feel disconnected? When's the last time I felt kind of natural, easy pleasure in my body? Am I breathing? Am I leaning forward? Like, just to take it, to kind of do a little bit of a check and be like, whoa, what's real right now? If I'm not trying to fix it, what's real? And then to kind of check in with these emotions, and these emotions aren't going to eat us alive if some of the crisis is over. I mean, I know plenty of people are still dealing with the fallout of economical stuff and COVID is also, it's still possible to get COVID. People are having symptoms from the vaccine. Like there's still things that are happening. But most of us aren't afraid we're going to die any minute from COVID. And to just kind of feel like, okay, here's the fear. Here's the reality. Can I take a breath in that? Can I let myself feel and let those feelings start to move? Like if I need to cry, can I cry? If I need to be angry, can I, take a strong walk or hit the bed or yell? Like, can I start to let some of this become liquid and not solid, like actually move? And I just want to say that because we're talking about these things, and sometimes they can seem kind of amorphous. I just want to really ground them out. So where do I see projection in my work? I don't, one of my mischievous gifts is like, I go right in and like people just feel like they're naked. But because I enjoy it so much and I'm not judging you, this is where I'm just playing. There's this moment where someone's like, should I feel ashamed? No, she's loving it. Right? Like, I'm Megan, So I don't see a whole lot of projection because I'm unwrapping you, and everything that's happening outside will inevitably come back to you anyway. So sorry to be, but people don't often come in like complaining for 30 minutes because it's just it's not useful.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing that this happened in your body when you said that, or like your pulse got really high, or like, let's go in. But I imagine for other people doing this work, it's easier to blame what's happening outside of you than to see how you're relating and creating to the things in your world. Even something as simple as like, oh, blah, 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 they're always taking advantage of me, and blah, blah, blah. You could say no. What? But let's work with where this kind of bleeding out is happening that makes you resent this person, right? Like we have choice. There's freedom in there that we forget that we have because maybe we've formally been given it.
What I see too is like that it really is our responsibility for our emotions, for our own reality, like so to speak, our own, like that how we feel is our responsibility. Or we may be, there's kind of like this two sides of it. Like there's one that's like, okay, like almost like the boot on the hill, that like, oh, I'm completely in charge, nothing affects me, I'm completely in charge of my emotions, like or like everything that I feel is my responsibility 100%. But then we go, well, that person said something and they made me feel this way, like that really hurt, they hurt me, and then and that's a common, because it feels that way, and there's some truth there.
Yeah.
And then but yet, like, how do I be responsible, like what, what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny to me each time we talk about Buddha on the mountain, because one of my closest friends is a Buddhist monk. And every once in a while I complain that maybe I should have been doing that, and he reminds me that we're doing the same thing more or less, except he's wearing robes, right? And while he's been wearing robes, he's learned how to operate heavy machinery. Like he's doing his life and he's working on his triggers full time. So I don't know what he would say, but sometimes people behave like an asshole. Like you're walking and they step on your foot, and it's appropriate to be like, ow. But if you put yourself in the path to have them step on your foot for the next 20 years, that's on you. Right? So sometimes people do things that are shitty.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to feel hurt by that. I don't know that you have to be so transcendent that if somebody slaps you in the face, you're like, I felt nothing. You know what I mean? Like, things happen to us. And where, we have some playing controls, being like, okay, did this happen to me because I grew up with this and I'm used to it? Like, how am I co-creating it? Or is it just one of those moments where a bird flew by and pooped on my head and, I had to say, ow, and wipe it off, try to get out of the way of the bird. So I'm saying it this way because I think sometimes in progressive communities, we take this idea of like, we control our reality to the extreme. So we blame ourselves for getting sick, or we blame ourselves for somebody stepping on our foot. And that's too far, in my opinion. And yeah, we have choice in how we react. And we have choice in the spaces, what spaces we want to put ourselves in.
Yeah. Well, it sort of like goes along with, well, you chose your parents, you chose the light, this incarnation. And I have to think like, well, I don't remember doing that. So I don't know. How do I know? I theoretically and could believe that that's potentially true. As a spirit, I did choose this life. But me now, like I don't recall doing that. I don't know that I did that, So, and just like, oh, I may have, sometimes they've done research of like, I unconsciously ended up doing something repetitive. Like I unconsciously just wanted to go down that street. Well, that's the street you used to always go down, that, you met that person and you had that bad interaction with, but something in you is unconsciously pushing you to do unhealthy things. That doesn't mean, oh, well, you're consciously too, it's like, or there's blame there, but it's like, okay, how can we become conscious of those choices? Like you said, stop getting your foot stepped on.
Right. I mean, you're not bad, dirty, wrong. And if you're doing something that's not coming from a clear conscious choice, like, let's put some light on that and unravel that and give you more options.
Yeah. I love your journey, and you. It's just like when I read your stuff, like I flipped off a shaman, and I've done all these, like,
Oh, yeah.
there's so much richness in your story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
I wrote a friend the other night that I was somebody who was standing in the mouth of the lion covered in spittle, reporting my experiences, and that was perfectly fine for me. I put on the mountain, I'm in the mouth of the lion, be like, it's wet in here. But I see the mountains. It's very pretty out there.
But I noticed, like, too, like your path, you face some things that, like you said, in the mouth of the lion, that like, or just getting out of the shark's grasp, that like it could really be certain things that, like, even when in love, people go, oh, I've had multiple breakups, I've had multiple divorces, I've had these XYZ things that are like, wow, that was really traumatic or grieving, or I was raised by a deeply narcissistic mother, and and it was awful, or whatever it is. And those are the things that make us go, you know what, I'm checking out. I tried it.
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore. What I love about you is you're like, you're like, that's not, how does one do that? Like, what was the thing that made you go, no, I'm still going to be alive. I'm still going to be wild. I'm still going to, taste life and go after life. What do you think shuts us down, and what could help us stay alive?
I mean, what shuts us down, there's a lot of things that shut us down. I feel like there's a place that most people who work with me in some capacity get to, where either they access that longing for more, that hunger, or they're just in so much pain, they can't do it that way anymore. So for example, like a relationship that is on the edge of breaking. People will often come to me in that place. But in my one-on-one work, I think people often come to me because they want their own lives. Like there's this kind of quiet suffering that's been happening where they've been performing the version of them they think they should be. And there's this dissonance and there's this ache and there's that hunger and that little kid in there that's like, I'm supposed to be a fairy princess. This is supposed to be magical. What the hell happened? Combination leads them to me without really knowing where they're going to get in our work together or what's possible. Which I love, right? Because I kind of get a sense of like, ooh, this is who you are. This is what you've been doing. This is who you are. When you're over here, wow, it's going to be really awesome. Like, and then I start unwrapping. I'm excited little kid just throwing stuff everywhere and celebrating with them. So I think hunger and pain help us make that choice. And I was fortunate to kind of have that breakthrough moment very early. I remember being 13 and being in my mom's house, and I had gone out and saved my allowance and bought a rose. And I was sitting in my bed with the bare wallpaper all around me looking at this rose, and I thought, basically, do I want to kill myself, or do I want to make, like, really take ownership of my life and radically just shift everything, like just move out of my mom's house at 13. And I was looking at that rose and I thought, this rose is going to die in this house. Everything is going to die in this house, including me. And I ended up taking the rose to a neighbor's house and putting my stuff in trash bags and leaving. So everyone has their own moment. And sometimes it's not that dramatic. It's like a kind of just falling one floor down after being descending for a while. And sometimes it's a radical moment, like an illness or a breakup or a trip that changes your life. But I think that moment is important where you stop surviving and you choose whether or not you want to live.
Yeah, it's like knowing you have a choice and then making the choice.
Right. And I think a lot of people never make a choice.
Yeah, which is a choice.
Well,
in some ways.
Maybe it's just not their jam in this lifetime, but the people that come into my world, I'm sure you included, we make a choice.
Yeah.
And we're willing to be uncomfortable for more.
Yeah. I know within the last few years, I had moments in my life where I was like, I'm just down, really down, really down. And I'm like, I don't want to be this. I want to change it. And I remember waking up one morning going like, I'm just sad and down. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to choose that. I'm going to be happy. And I just went, I'm happy. It didn't mean everything changed, but in that moment, I was like, I'm a little happier, actually, just by saying that to myself, like, you know what? I'm happy. And what would be happy? I'm grateful. Like, look at the sky, look at this moment. Like, no, not everything, but like, okay, I'm alive. Like a little gratitude and like, okay, like I could, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple choice. And it doesn't mean it solves everything or that but it feels like it's putting me on that path. It's like lining me up with that path of like you were talking earlier of where you want to go, that yearning. Like I'm gonna line up with that.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that in my world and in my work/play, we're going over here, and everything that happens is on the path to going over here, and over here is really awesome. Like, if you fall into a puddle, we're still going over here. Like, the puddle is just the moment in time on the path to there.
Yeah.
So I like that. You're like, I'm gonna be happy, like I'm headed towards happiness, and you still take the journey, but you take the journey with more enthusiasm.
Yeah.
For something.
Yeah, because I marvel that there's some people who are like, I can get over something and I'm moving on. And the same thing happens to someone else, and they're like, they're still in it 20 years later. And
Yeah.
not that there's a good or bad or right or wrong. I just feel like, okay, what was the difference? Was, well, that other person chose. They said, I'm choosing something different. Or maybe there's a whole bunch of differences, but I've noticed that was a common thing of like a choice. They're like, I'm choosing that. What do you think about that?
I think that some people who move on shove the stuff down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there are there's kind of a technology that I've been learning to effectively like moving forward. Like, some of it is choice, some of it is learning how to work with the brain, which after brain surgery is something that I have gotten a lot of evidence for. And some of it is having the help and the resources that you need to do the deeper work. So, you can actually move forward unencumbered.
Yeah. Oh, I like that, because it's like at one level you could be like, oh, I'm choosing, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm choosing with the
Right.
blinders. And not,
Right? I don't see that I'm like trailing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like all of these cans behind me. Like, I don't hear anything. And then there's also like, yeah, I'm feeling this way. I'm headed here, like, and here's the path here. And each time my brain tries to drag me back over here, I'm gonna just refocus it, because I don't need to be stuck
Yeah.
in what's happened before. And there are some things, like, I didn't just choose to be fine after brain surgery. Like, I got a lot of help. I saw a lot of practitioners. I did different modalities. I did different practices to retrain my brain, to retrain my body through physical therapy. Like, I did some work.
Yeah.
And I didn't let my brain go back to places of like, you're gonna be disabled, like everything's gone to shit, you're fucked up, because it wasn't useful.
Yeah.
Right. So there's the people who get stuck because their brain is stuck.
Yeah.
There's the people who get stuck because they need help they didn't get, and tools they didn't get. Like, for example, if you don't know how to express your anger and you think you're dangerous, it's not like you can just be like, I choose to never be angry again. Like, you're stuck. You need help. You need a new set of tools. Once you have them, you can move forward. Right. So it's choice and help.
Yeah. What I hear you kind of saying, which is, I love it, is like this idea, instead of like I'm cutting off parts of myself and going, this is where we're going. I'm
Right.
bringing them in with, like, oh, you feel scared. Oh, you feel stuck. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm bringing you with me to where we're going.
Yeah. I'm giving it what it needs, like,
Yeah.
like the difference again between your brain getting stuck in a rut, versus like, you're scared.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
love the place and be like, yeah, that was really freaking scary. Like, like, what do you need? Like, let's go together. Like, integrating those places.
Yeah.
And out for help. I think one thing that I find so challenging about the US is this idea that, isn't it funny how all of these concepts that on some level are true kind of get bastardized with this idea of like, you should be fine, you should do it yourself, like just choose, get over it, And it's so tricky because on one sense, like, yes, you can choose. And, when you're changing, when you're becoming yourself, when you've been through something really painful, back to that little kid place of like, you're interconnected. You don't have to do it by yourself. it's not better if you do it by yourself. It's better to hold hands in the dark. It's just nicer. Preferably with somebody who knows where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love, and like I love that word, the integrating it all in. Like
Yeah.
like it's all life, all is you, and integrate, and as opposed to like holding off those pieces.
Yeah, because that stuff's gonna pop up in a weird way anyway, if you don't integrate it. It doesn't go away. Like you either take it with you and alchemize it and love it until you become more, or it's gonna, bite you in the butt.
Yeah. I don't see anything back there. Ow!
Right? Yeah,
Ow,
exactly.
I'm not getting bit. I'm fine. Ow!
Right? It's like the guy who's like, I'm fine. Why is my penis not working? Well, you're not fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
You haven't been fine for a while. And then what did they say? Take a pill. Now you're fine again.
Yeah. Oh,
Right?
is that true? Yeah.
Yeah, right. Then you come to me and I'm like, let's unravel the gift.
Yeah. And that's a lot. It seems like that's a lot of what our medicine and our medical world is let's cover up those pieces of the shadow or the self we don't want to see, so that we could just stay in line, like we could stay functional, like,
Yeah.
okay, like, don't worry about why your penis isn't working. Take this
Right.
pill, you're good to go, and you're set. It's like, well,
Right.
wait a minute, am I really set? Like, am I really having the sensual, even if it worked, the pill does make me hard, is that really giving me
Right.
what I want?
Or am I just performing again in a way that I think is going to give me value without actually being able to ever feel loved or seen? Yeah. Yeah. I love how you started this conversation, because so many people are so lonely. And we pretend together, I mean, at least in the US, and I work also with England, and we pretend that that's normal. And we should just get over it and be fine. And it's something wrong in us that we feel lonely. But the entire script of our lives is that we're given is dysfunctional. And we don't have the tools we need to live the lives that we want. We don't know how to be ourselves. We're still scared that maybe because our parents couldn't handle the full spectrum of who we are, that our partners might not be able to love the full spectrum of who we are. I mean, there's so much room for us to really thrive that so many people don't know is there. But you need different tools. You need a safe space to make a mess. And that's why I love doing this work, where I'm just like, look around. That's like sandcastle. But oops, you got a little sand in your eye. That's okay.
Yeah, it almost like makes you want to cry to think of the isolation so many of us, so many people are in, but yet we so yearn for that connection to each other in a way that doesn't, that is true, authentic, and like we are beautiful. Humans are so beautiful in many ways, and when we can really connect, and we want to, I feel like inherently we really want to love and help each other. We really want to support and care for each other, but we often feel so isolated in our pain and our struggle. And the results we feel like we're getting back that says not good enough, or there's something wrong with you, or get your stuff together, like fit in, and you're just like, oh, I want to fit in, but it doesn't feel good, but I guess I will.
Yeah. I think it's helpful to remember that like everyone around you is doing that to some extent. And I mean, there's a reason why I don't live in the US anymore. I felt like there wasn't really a lot of permission to be given. And while I was creating that permission for people, I wanted to feel like my value wasn't in how much money I made or how great I was at my job or what I looked like. And there are cultures, I mean, in southern Spain, I have such a range of friends. Nobody really knows what I do professionally. Nobody really cares. And when I didn't have money, they didn't care. When I have more money now, like we just enjoy a bigger house for them and for stuff like what I see mattering to people is my capacity to love and be loved. And that's what I want to be valued. Who I am. If I can ask for help and be grateful when I receive it. If I can show up with an open heart, if I feel safe to cry in front of someone or say I'm not okay, like I want to be valued. It's something I've worked very hard to access. And I don't feel that way in the US. I mean, I feel that way with specific people, but culturally it feels like a very different container. And I can feel how scared everyone is. I think partially because there's not national health care and like there is this fear of like, if I don't have enough money and I get sick, I may just be left and die. So I think some of the loneliness is you kind of needing more tools and support and learning how to really become ourselves. And I think some of it is the context, you know, that certain countries are living in, where it's not based on interdependence. And there is a lot of shame around needing anything. And a lot of fear around what will happen if you're not the best all the time, including, you know, that you could get sick and die. Like there's this like impulse to have to control things that you shouldn't have to control. They should just be there.
Yeah.
And I say that as someone who just had brain surgery in the US and got there without insurance.
Yeah,
So,
that there is a communal aspect to it, to the loneliness. But I'm curious about where you are. That what is it? Is it sometimes it's even the structure of the way things are built. Like, but I mean that's follows from an inward. Like, why are the cities built the way they are? Why are things structured the way they are? Like they
yeah.
lend themselves to that. I don't know what it looks like where you're there, but that maybe you could walk out the street and connect with someone right off the street. You know, I don't know, but like
Yeah. I mean, I think some of it is, you know, like it's a walking city. So you're walking most places instead of driving. Some of it is that there is national health care. I think is it perfect? God no. But the government is set up in a way that is, you know, less money is going to the military and more is going to healthcare. And, you know, if you get sick and you're not able to do your job, that you're going to be supported in some way. So there's less, I mean, there's still hardship, right? Like there's still people struggling, but there isn't that same feeling of like, if I fall down because I can't be a superhero today, I'm going to be in the street dying by myself.
Yeah.
And what I've seen, at least in my friends group, is that there is a kind of a general sense of we're all in it together. And it's okay to have a hard time and like somebody's going to be there. And in the US, maybe this was also just my experience of the US. I think it's different in different states and areas, but Like it felt almost like a personal failure to need help.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I think so.
now that I have different cultural references, I think that's very weird.
Yeah, that you individually failing in a community is somehow just your fault. You know, like any kind of community, that instead of saying, oh, what is our communal responsibility? What can we communally do
Right.
together to support everybody? You know, to support
Right.
as best we can. So yeah, even something like Social Security was like something, the idea that, well, at least so that old people at least don't have to be on the street or eating dog food. That the idea that at least could we give them something basic, you know, which is
Yeah.
not even basic anymore. But you know, and I think that's, we're seeing that at least in the U.S. a lot of with homelessness and like you said, with people dying. You know, where you wouldn't, like, I'm from Canada, and the idea was like, oh, if you're sick, you just go right to you go right to your doctor. You go right, like there's not a thought of,
Right.
like
Right.
I
Right.
should go there, and they are there to help me, not like it's going to cost a certain amount, and really
Right.
it's a profit driven
Right.
thing.
Right. Right. So, I mean, I want to say all of this so that we can kind of span out and have empathy and compassion for maybe some of the fear that we're feeling, or some of the like the isolation that comes from, oh my God, like if I don't keep pushing, if I don't keep performing, you know, like something bad's going to happen. I think there are roots in that that are bigger than just our own personal families and experiences.
Yeah.
And when we can see that stuff, my hope is that we can have empathy for like, oh, this is a real experience. Like, I'm not making this stuff up. This is a real experience. And that's not my fault. And now that I can see it, what choices do I want to make?
Yeah.
As opposed to that kind of like that driving thing that leads us to like performing harder and bigger and pushing more and more and beating ourselves up when we're not continuously on, which is not natural in a life cycle to just be on.
Yeah.
Like, just to be like, whoa. This feels bad because it's not right.
Yeah.
Not because I'm broken.
Yeah.
And I should get on the horse with, you know, with more padding.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, very true. I think that's, yeah, and to be cognizant of both those aspects of like, yes, I'm taking individual responsibility, and it's within a system that's inherently has flaws and has structures that make it really difficult for myself and other people to potentially succeed. And how do I live in that? What do I do?
I have this conversation sometimes with women that I'm working with who are big and juicy and alive, and there's moments where they're like, is this okay, or something bad is going to happen? And I've had this conversation with enough women, because I've worked with a lot of women over the years, to say like, hey, you have that feeling because something bad has happened in the past. Like, it's not just some personal fear. Like there's it's something bad is happening to women in different countries right now for speaking up and going against the culture. It's okay to feel all of that, but know where it's coming from, respect it, and move forward with that awareness while we're walking together as a front. That's the opposite of like, you're weak, you're psyching yourself out, do it by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get over it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, okay, honor and respect your wild and creative and amazing self, and realize, well, why am I guarded? Well, there is potential reasons for you to feel guarded, because there are potentially threatening things. But how do you manage that and keep yourself up?
Right. How do you honor that and move forward in a way where you feel resourced and connected?
Yeah.
That's why we do these things together. We hold hands. We hold hands in the dark. We still keep going, right? Because we want to go somewhere else. I don't know. in the dark and be like, it's fine, it's not fine, right? Like, you want to go over here, but we go together. And I feel like that's, when we think of coaching and we think like, oh, I'm gonna be like John Wayne of my life. No. Learn how to be interconnected, resourced, have new tools and skills, how to work with the equipment you have, your brain, your emotions. But it's not about not needing anything. It's learning how to be more human and how to enjoy it, not less.
Love it. How does people find more, follow you, who want more information about what you're doing or wants to participate more with you? What would be some avenues they could follow to keep up with
Oh,
this?
that's good. We must be getting close to time. Good job, you. So my website is feralfemale.com.
I love that name.
Feral like the cats,
Uh-huh.
female.com. And Facebook, which I think is where you and I connected. So you can find me on Facebook, Isis Leeor. I'm also on Instagram, and I'm slowly moving out across multiple platforms.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, I would encourage people to connect in any way that feels good.
Fantastic. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your time. I enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, me too. And it's really nice to actually see you.
Yes. Yes. Good to see you too. And you went to school a long time, or I don't know when, but you went to school. I'm in Olympia, Washington, so I'm close to where
I went to Evergreen. Yeah.
So you went to Evergreen.
Yeah, I love Olympia.
Yeah, beautiful place.
Oh, give my love to the trees. I miss them.
All right. Have a beautiful day. Thanks.
All right. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.